So I begin with the default cube, then I'd add subdivisions to it. So let's go to the modifier tab and let's look for subdivision surface. Then we can bump it up from 1 to 2, and then we can hit the drop down and select apply. Now in scope mode, what I'd like to do is use the grab brush, and I'll grab the bottom area of this newly created sphere, which will act as a jawline. Then I'll pull the face forward. And we also need to house the brain, so we need to bring the back of the head back a bit more so we get this nice and round egg shape. And now we need to smooth this out. So we'll use the voxel remesher by pressing Shift R so we get this grid, and we move to the right to add a decent enough resolution. And we'll apply it by pressing Control R. So let's shift and draw to smooth this out. And this looks good so far. And what I like to do is switch to the scrape brush, and I want to scrape off the sides and get it nice and flat. So we have a nice area for the ear. And then we rotate around the front, and we'll do it down the center. That looks good. Smooth that out. So now's a good time to switch to the draw sharp brush so we can capitalize on the back of the jaw, which also leads to the back of the skull, which we don't typically see when we're working on a full body because we have the neck covering that section. So now we can use the clay strips, which is the build-up brush, and we can start working on some of the features like the nose and eyes. And at any point you want to redo this, you can just Control Z or just Shift Draw to smooth it out. And we can reposition this closer to the center. And also by holding down Control, you can get a concave section for the eyes and swap between the brushes to get a better look. And once you're satisfied with this, we can switch to the grab brush, and we'll just grab the sides of the eye holes and we'll just pull that closer to the side of the skull. Because, eyes aren't flat. They curve around to match the face. And now we'll pull the mouth back some. And let's switch back to the draw sharp brush so we can work on the laugh line that connects to the nose. And then I start to swap between the build-up brush and the grab brush to better position this area. Now we need to work on the chin. And at this stage, don't worry about making the model look beautiful because, we're in such an early form of this model that it doesn't matter. And we need to just focus on getting the prominent features. So once you're satisfied, we need to add more resolution. So we'll just press Shift R to bring up the voxel remesher once again. And once you're satisfied, hit Control R, and we'll just smooth this out and start working on this a bit further. Don't feel bad, guys, if it doesn't look super polished right now. This is the ugly stage. Every sculptor goes through this stage where it looks like nothing that it's intended to. So, we're so early on. Don't worry about the details. It's going to come to fruition. Guys, just keep pushing it. Right now, we're going to start working on the mouth. And I used the draw sharp. And that's why we pulled the mouth earlier. So we don't have to build up too much. We can just work off of what we have and add more subdivisions as needed. And don't feel bad and don't worry about going back on things you already did and redoing them. Because that's part of the process. You're going to like things. And the further you get, you're going to dislike things and just make it better. Always strive for success. Now let's work on the eyes. Once back in object mode, we can append a sphere. So that we're going to hit Shift A and select UV sphere. And then we're going to hit S to downscale that. And once satisfied, we're going to go to the left side and select the move tool to better position this to the eye socket. And you can downscale this again if need be. And what I want to now do is hit Shift D to duplicate. And we're going to hide that duplicate. And with the one still visible, what I want to do is go to edit mode by hitting tab and go to vertices select the entire ring and hit H to hide, and then hover over the top half and hit L to select. Now Alt H to unhide and hit P on the keyboard and select selection. Now let's hit tab to go back to object mode, and we're going to hit R, then X to rotate in the X axis, and we're going to select the bottom, hit R, X, and rotate in the X axis as well. Now we're going to add some thickness. So let's go to the modifier tab and add a solidifier modifier. And let's change the thickness to your choosing. And once satisfied, we're going to make sure we select this and hit Control C to duplicate. And then grab the bottom lid, add a solidifier, and we're going to paste the same thickness and then apply this as well. Now what I want to do is select one of the eyes, go to edit mode by hitting tab, and we're going to hit Control R to add an edge loop in this corner. One here. We're going to add more on the back end as well. And these are supporting loops to make it sharp once we add a subdivision surface. Now we're going to right click and go to smooth in object mode, and we're going to repeat that same functionality for this top lid. So Control R to add an edge loop, grab one for the bottom, grab another one for this bottom back end, and let's rotate around so we can see this inside area. And let's go back to object mode, and what I'm going to do is right click and go to smooth. Now I think we're at a good time to start shaping these eyelids to match our character. So what we'll do is select one in object mode, and then we're going to go to edit mode and then select a vertex, and I want to turn on proportional editing here at the top, and then we can press G to move and middle mouse scroll to change the size that's being affected. And we can do this for this left corner as well. Now we can do it for the bottom eyelid also. And this is going to vary depending on the character that you're going for. And now what you want to do is add a mirror modifier and select the eyedrop tool, select the face to mirror it on the back end. And we can toggle back on that eye we turned off earlier, and we'll downscale this to match the eye. Right click in object mode and go to smooth, and we'll mirror this as well. So we should have a result close to this. And now what I want to do is start adding more detail to the face. So I'm using the draw sharp, using the grab brush, squeezing and pinching areas, bending areas that that need to be adjusted. And let's bring down this jaw here, this cheekbone that's really prominent. Let's bring that down, smooth it out, and let's see what else we can fix on here. Smooth this, smooth that just a bit. He looks really grumpy at this moment. And we can still change his face if we're not satisfied with how he looks. So don't ever feel like we just have to keep it how it looks now. So don't get too attached this early on, because there's going to be plenty of changes. So just ensure that you guys remember or make hotkeys to switch between the brushes. You can save so much time by doing so. And play around with this in your free time so you can know what each brush does, because maybe you guys might like using other brushes than the ones I like to use. So back in object mode, we can shift A to append a cylinder, and we can just rescale it to match the size of an ear. And also remember to keep it behind the jawline, because that's where ear typically starts, right behind the jaw. And if you're looking at reference, many ears have different shapes and sizes, so just try to better match the one you're going for. And then go to edit mode, and I like to add edge loops for the supporting edges. So Control R, and then I inset the top faces. Then I add some subdivisions so we can keep it nice and uniform, and also apply scale so you don't get any non-manifold geometry. And then don't worry about too much detail. I like to keep it really rough at this stage before I mirror this over. So once we're satisfied with the minor detail, we can move forward to go into the Modify tab and adding a quick mirror to mirror this to the opposite end. Then we can shift select both the face and ears and press Control J to merge them. And back in sculpt mode, you'll see there's different colors, so we need to re-voxel to merge them properly. And then there's a little bit of cleanup that needs to be done with the intersecting geometry. So we need to press Shift and start to sculpt around the intersecting areas to smooth them. And also remember to look at this from all angles, so don't forget to do the back as well, because it's easy to forget things that you don't normally see or probably won't be seen, but it's still just good to get it anyway. Now what I want to do is go back to object mode, and I want to apply the mirrors that we set for the eyelids and then combine the eyelids together. And then let's go back to the modify drop down, and let's select the subsurface modifier so we can add a little bit of detail to these eyelids, because it's really low res right now and we need more subdivisions. And once we apply that, I think it's good to go back into sculpt mode and just revoxel this by itself before we merge. And don't forget to apply scale as well. Now that we revoxel that, we can combine the eyes and the face with Control J and go back into sculpt mode and revoxel that as well. And you can tell they're not really merged when you see the different coloration. So after that's complete, just like we did with the ears, we want to make sure it's nice and smooth around the intersecting areas. And apply scale just to make sure that everything's nice and symmetrical. Now we can start dipping into the details and, you know, better matching our reference. So keep an eye on the, you know, the lips, the nose, and the eyes with your reference, because that's the part that really will make or break your likeness. Because if the nostrils are too big, you start to change the ethnicity of your sculpt. So I'm doing an old character, so I'm trying to basically add wrinkles in areas where there will be. And don't get too strung up on too much detail, because we still are kind of early on in the model, but now we can start adding a bit more define and definition to it. So just keep looking at your reference. I have a dual monitor, so my reference is on my other monitor. And if we wanted to, we can still make this stylized at this moment, or we can just smooth off all the sharp corners and make it look more realistic. And don't forget to still move around areas to further, you know, define your character. It's not just about sculpting and using the build-up brush, it's also movement as well. Because we didn't add a lot of detail in the ears, and I don't think we will too much on this character, but it's still good to, you know. And as I mentioned earlier, guys, it's always good to set hotkeys so you don't have to keep going to the side and switching your brushes, but you can just press a key to choose the brush you want. So play around with these brushes, guys. Get used to these. And let's define some of these bony landmark areas, and also, you know, the front of the cranial area. And let's pull these cheeks in so we can define the cheekbones underneath. For my character, pull that jaw up a little bit, then we have to pull that out. So always be thinking of the underneath of the model. You know, what's holding this up? You know, why are certain areas more prominent than others? Always think about a skull, or use reference of a skull when sculpting. A face, at least. Just adding more detail in areas where it needs to be. Grabbing this frontal area of the brain, of the head, and bringing it up. And I'm going to pull the back of the head out because it's too small right now. And this can take as long as you need it to take. Don't feel rushed. Just have fun with it. And then I say, like, a sculpt every few days is a good start to becoming a great sculptor. I'm not the best. I just started sculpting earlier this year inside of Blender, and I don't have any previous knowledge sculpting. So we need to have the eyes sinking in a little bit. He's an older character, so eyes are usually sunken in from the wear and tear throughout the years. A good reference book is Anatomy for Sculptors. It's one that, you know, I learned a lot from. So if you guys get a chance, check that out. And also watch other sculptors. Another thing that's really good to do is, a lot of people, you know, brag on the different programs to sculpt. Should I use Blender? Should I use ZBrush? They both do the same thing. ZBrush is just more tailored towards sculpting, so that's why people use that, and as well as it holds better with a lot more geometry. But at some point, they usually end up bringing their models into Blender anyway, so why not just learn how to do it in Blender? Because you can get some great results as well, and plus you can still watch YouTubers sculpt in ZBrush and still learn how to apply that in Blender. So hopefully you guys are finding this tutorial series somewhat useful. I think I might just keep this video and do some run-on videos, and maybe after this start working on some hair, adding some piercings, just further defining this character. Make this nice and smooth. And then towards the end, we're going to start adding some alphas, because right now I'm pre-planning. So where the character lacks in detail, we're going to make up for it in alphas. So we're going to add those wrinkles, those scuff marks, those war wounds. Don't worry about sculpting all that detail, because that's what the alphas are for. So when I started to get the wrinkles on the eyes, I know pre-planning that I'm going to add some alphas. So let me further define this nose area. Using the inflate brush and then the grab brush on this head, pulling the forehead back a little bit more so it makes more sense. And these are some gigantic ears, but it's okay. Some people have bigger ears than others. It's not his fault. He was born this way. Bring that cheek in a little bit, get some nice offset. This looks cool. It's looking nice and great. Now typically I was going to make a video on its own how to use alphas, but I think I'll just do it in this video so you guys can grasp it and have some fun with this. We can't let ZBrush have all the fun with the alphas. We can do it in here as well. So I'm just doing minor detail now, because once you do a little bit of detail, you can make it look twice as good once you add the alphas and blend them together. So I'm just setting this up with that in mind. And always go back to work on different parts of the face. So right now, even if I wanted to start a new mouth, I can just smooth this one out and just begin again, because we don't have too much geometry here. We're still kind of low res. So I can just do a nice concave separation for the lips and then do a convex for the outer areas. And then I can just further add detail to it. And I'm keeping the detail relatively small and minor right now, because I have alphas that I'm going to use for the lips, pores for the upper area between the lip and the nose area, as well as the cheekbones, forehead, and other areas. So right now it's between minor details and basic details right now. And we're not going to worry about texturing and things like that, worrying about hair. We're going to do other videos focusing on those. So right now we're just working on, having the proportions leveled. Let me bring up this nose bridge area. And now I'll start adding alphas after changing the materials. So to add alphas, first you want to be in sculpt mode, hit N so we can get this menu over here. And let's select our brush we want to use the alpha on. Now we want to go to this texture drop down, and then don't press new here, but go to the texture properties here on the right, select this icon, and then select new. Then go down to where it says open, and then now you can locate where your alphas are on your directory on your PC. Select it, and then there's a couple of settings we have to change just to ensure everything works good. So first thing I'm going to do is go to the mapping and change it from tiled to view plane. Then underneath the stroke drop down, let's change the space to anchored. And then lastly, let's ensure the fall off is set to smooth. So go to fall off and make sure that's on smooth. Now let's change the strength. And now we can begin using our alphas. And whenever you want to swap them out, just go back to open and just reselect a new alpha. And just keep doing this, and ensure you go to some good sites and get some good alphas. ZBrush site has some good ones. You can get some good ones off ArtStation. So just get creative and just go to work. And don't put too many alphas, because then it looks unnatural and it kind of breaks the illusion of the character being realistic or whatever the look you're going for. Once you add materials to it and things like that, it kind of gets rid of some of the alphas, or it's harder to see them and it looks more natural. Also, take off symmetry so you can add asymmetry and asymmetric scars and tissues and pores, because that's what gives it more of a realistic look once there's something on one side and not on the other, if that makes any sense. And if you guys haven't already, hit that subscribe button, give the video a like. Let me know what you guys think of this in the comment section below. And let's just get a good render of this. And this is our result for the first video. Next video, we'll start working on piercings and further pushing this. All right, guys. I guess we're done with this video. I'll catch you guys in the next one.